Well, hello, lovely listeners. Welcome, viewers. Today, by popular demand, we have Robin Hood back on the show. Now, Robin has been on before. He's talked all things constitutional law and how corrupt our court system is. And today he wants to specify a certain detail and that there are two worlds running right now. There's the corporate and the real world. And Robin has been telling me off camera that all courts are illegal, which I think we probably knew anyway, because not one of them has a crown officer anymore. And legally or lawfully and technically and factually, courts should not be able to run without a crown officer. So that is the subject for today. Welcome back, Mr. Hood.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be back.
It's great to have your dulcet tones on the airwaves today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So you started to get into it when before I hit record. So
Yes.
let's rewind and
Yeah.
you take us back to or take me back to the beginning of the conversation. So what do you mean there are two worlds operating?
We've got one world that's been put to sleep, and when I mean by that, I mean it's the natural common world, which is the world that we see every day. We open our eyes, we wake up, we breathe the air, we see the trees, we see the living side of it all. Right? What we don't see now is the rule of law anymore. Okay, there is no rule of law. Um,
I think Robin's being hit by a call on his phone.
yeah, sorry, my love. Yeah, I've just got 4 calls coming in. So apologies for that, everybody. And what I mean by that is we've got the living world and then you've got the corporate world. So we've got this world that we live in, we believe we live in, and we don't live in that world anymore. What they've done, and by the acts of parliament that have come in, and this has been going on for a very, very long time, but the critical turning point in this was, for me, in 1995 and 1997. 1995, the Crown Agents Act and Crown officers were basically put into limbo. And then in 1997, they were dissolved. I've asked you to look it up so you can put it up on the thing. So basically, that means that all Crown agents that worked for us were removed from law. They were removed. And they were transferred to the Companies Act, 1985. They've been moved again since into another Companies Act.
So just go back. So the Crown Agents Act 1979, which I'll put on the screen now.
Yep.
What is essentially this act saying?
Every Crown officer has been dissolved. They no longer exist. No longer exist. And have gone into the corporate world.
Sorry, is this in the 1979 one or the 1995? Isn't it 95?
No. They were 1995. All Crown agents were dissolved.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 1995, they were put in sort of a limbo, waiting to be dissolved.
Okay.
Yeah. And in 1995, they were all dissolved. They all transferred then into the Companies Act, making every Crown agent basically a business, working for a corporation.
Yeah.
That's what the courts have turned into, the corporations. And then by the misuse, and we all know this, it's the misuse of the all caps legal fiction birth certificate. Come what may, whether you believe it, whether you don't, the straw man, the thing, the company, the dead entity, whatever you want to call it. But this again has been literally worked on for, and I've got to say this, hundreds of years, because they've changed men and the people into public, citizens, corporations, sea monsters, fictional, straw men. And that's just a few of the nicknames that they've given us to create an illusion that we are not what we think we are in their world. And that's the worlds that are being colliding at the minute. The one that puts you into corporate fiction and charges you under policies and charges you under without law or basis under an imaginary contract that doesn't exist. You know, Penny Morgan came out the other week and said, we're all under a moral contract to pay our taxes and do this and do as we're told. Right? Well, actually, no, we're not. You're under a contract to do as you're told by the governed. Because what people have forgotten is actually who the hell we are. Again, it comes down to this perception that the government is the all-seeing, all-knowing, all-powerful Oz. Well, it's not. It's we, the people, that are the all-powerful, all-knowing, all-everything.
Yeah.
Because without us and our consent of authority to be governed, they have no power. None.
But just to give you a little example on that, as you're talking, it's reminding me of quite a recent podcast I did with the wonderful Clive Edwards. I don't know. I know you're a busy man. You probably haven't watched it, but Clive is the guy that basically ended up building a farm and Christ knows what else on his land without planning permission, and he took on the fight for 5 years, and in the end, he basically, the next guy that had been put on to come and talk to him and all of that sort of stuff, he basically asked him a couple of questions, one being, is it illegal not to have planning permission? And the guy went, no, it's not. And I can't remember what the second question was, but it just proved that it's all on assumption, which I know you talk about a lot.
Correct.
And he also talked about the fact that he wrote to the Attorney General, and basically deregistered himself from any kind of electoral role, any kind of association with that. So he is no longer a citizen, he is one of the people. And in being one of the people, he is at a higher level, as you know,
Yeah.
than our so-called government.
Yeah, and that's what we've all got to start doing. All this, we remove consent, means nothing to them because because what Parliament's running under is, and it's basically treasonous behaviour. It literally is, and that's what it's categorised in law, is treasonous behaviour.
Yeah.
Because what the government's done is removed you from your true lawful standing as the people and put you as a fictitious entity under Roman law, which means under Roman law, all Romans were citizens of Rome in slavery and servitude. You do as we tell you under the merchant's parliament. And that's what our parliament is. It thinks it can do what it likes, when it likes, if it likes. And the one thing that they've resurrected illegally, in my opinion, because it was done by Henry VIII, and it's called, and you can look it up, it's called the Henry VIII Clause. Basically, it subverts Parliament's authority, our authority. And it was only authorised, if you will, by the divine right of a king. When you go back to 1500s, okay? So we've got to put ourselves, and this is what we're failing to do, is put ourselves in the time mind of the guys in 1500. Yeah, and realising the fact that they're all still living in hovels. They're all still living with sheep and pigs and goats and chickens and kids, and you know what I mean?
Sounds like heaven.
Yeah. To a degree.
To a degree.
And, you know, they couldn't read, they couldn't write, they didn't have the internet. They didn't have the technology to beat these in an all-new system of hell for them. And what we've done is we've gone back to the government only are there for the benefit of us. Well, they're not. They're there for the benefit of themselves. And we've seen this. I mean, how do you get literally shown up by the head of tax that you owe the taxman 5 million quid and you don't get sacked or charged? But yet we owe the taxman 3 pence and they're coming after us like we owe them 30 million.
I know.
You know, it's absolutely scandalous. And they call it parliamentary privilege. Well, the only privilege they've got is to be able to talk in Parliament, nothing else. But we have correctly, like we've just said, like your other guy said, we've been moved without our knowledge, without our consent, and without our authority into a corporate world which loses our money. Because if something should cost us £3.20 and we can only tax that thing at £3.20, how much do we make off £3.20? Pennies. But yet, if that thing costs us £120, how much more taxes can we take?
Yeah.
And this is the false accounting that's been going off. And this is the incorporated world of mechanisation of everything that is ours in public that has been dismantled, changed, corporatised, put under UCC codes, and literally we are being told it is for our good. So why should we be paying £120 for something that costs us £3.20? Just so the government can securitise, weaponise, bondadise, create wars and terrorism against other nations. That's nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
We are not the policemen of the world. We are not the sanctuary of the world. The world's got its own problems. So have we.
So what would you say, like, I've done some videos and there's loads of TikToks and all that sort of stuff, and people, will reference DUNS numbers. Every court, every government organization has
Police station, everything. Yep.
has DUNS or several DUNS numbers.
Yep.
And then you get the trolls that say, well, what does that prove? It's not Companies House, etc. And then I think I saw something the other day where it said, it's basically hidden on Companies House. Now, I don't know
It
if
is. It is.
right. Okay.
It is. Because what happens is, and I've got the document, and I'm keeping it up my sleeve at the minute, but I've got the document that states from Companies House and from UCC before they all cottoned on what we were getting at, or what I was getting at, is that you have to be registered on Companies House to get a UCC number.
Right.
Okay. And it used to be, and this is because I challenged them on so many different levels, as you're probably aware, that we shouted it out and said, no, you can't do that. You're registered on Companies House. You're registered here. You're registered to a foreign state corporation, i.e. UCC. And you do that through this. And someday it's called a PSC, which is a person of significant control that has shares or is a director, can apply for a UCC number. And that's how it happened. Then what they've now stated is, because we did it again sort of 4 or 5 months later when we sort of caught them with their pants down, we then sent off another request to UCC and they changed it again to now it's automatically done and given when you register to the Companies House. So all these with company numbers, UCC numbers, are put on a secure company register, which is, again, it's fraud by misrepresentation, fraud by omission by Companies House, because they've not disclosed something that has relevance and is important information. Because the police officer, now that comes out and arrests you and does this and claims he can do whatever, he can't. All he is a citizen state security guard and has no authority, none. And is in actual fact in treasonous behaviour. He's in the Act of Terrorism 2015 Section 1. He's under Slavery 2010 Act 2010, and I think that's Article 1 and 3, by ensuring that you are in servitude and slavery. Obviously breaches international law as well, because they cannot change your persona without your explicit consent. And that's what they've done. They've put us, like your friend on the other podcast has correctly said, as a state citizen, the lowest of the low, no rights, no anything. You will do as you're told. When you come to our courts, you are guilty because you are there. Last time I spoke to you, the 12 presumptions of law, bar guild, fraud and deception. It's asset stripping of you, the man or woman. It's asset stripping you of your properties, rights, and it's treasonous behaviour by the courts, by the judges. Because, like we said, and this is, I think I shocked you literally within 3 minutes of our conversation. What are all solicitors registered to?
Yeah, the bar.
What are all barristers registered to?
The bar.
What are all judges registered to?
The bar.
Where is the bar?
Well, it's a foreign state and it's the City of London, right?
It's the inner city of London. This is where everybody gets it slightly wrong. It's not the City of London, it's the inner
It's
city of
the
the mile.
square mile. Yeah.
It's the square mile. So they're registered to the foreign state of a foreign state within a state. And as to the Monopolies Act 1623, no bar guild barrister is allowed to step foot outside of the inner city of London without a license, a special license, and a written consent of all parties. That's what it says in the Monopolies Act 1623. So when you go in front of these judges now, right, sat in a courtroom without a Crown officer, it's not an Imperial Crown Court. It has no jurisdiction and no authority. They're taking you, the commercial entity, into their realm without your written consent. And it says so. It says so in Acts, it says so in law, it says everything. But because we didn't know the rules of the game, they've done you. They've done us all like kippers. And I would like to give a little bit of a shout out to Wayne Layton.
Oh yeah. He's
He's
going to be
just
coming on. He's going to be coming on soon, hopefully.
brilliant. What a superstar the guy is.
Yeah.
We've all been saying it for absolutely forever and a day. Council tax enforcement is illegal. And to get them on a high court bench and say, well, the bailiffs get their authority from the council doesn't have the authority to give it. And that liability orders produced by the council have no lawful effect, basically. So it's void from the beginning. From 2003, when they took them out of law, how can you enforce something that doesn't exist?
Yeah.
Well done, Wayne. And, people have got to realise, that what we're saying is not nonsense. It's backed up by law. What they're actually doing is ignoring the law. They're ignoring our rights because we are less than what they wipe their shoes on. We're under servitude and slavery. And that's all done by the Parliament because it's them that are working against the law. They put us under servitude, slavery. We did this thing, me and yourself, I think a while back, about the QPR codes on council tax bills, on water bills, on everything else. All our money, those bills, went to pay off the Japanese bond. It's a corporate guilt bond, nothing to do with us. So we're being held responsible for somebody else's debt. And the Bar Guild are here to ensure it's paid on behalf of their corporate masters. That is not what the separation of powers is for.
It's interesting because, there are so many different ways that people tackle court, and I've been, taking tutorship from, people like yourself, and then other people that are using a different way, and trying to figure out in my own mind what feels right, and nothing feels right because I know the whole thing's a load of shite anyway. But just a recent example of me when I was in court recently, and it was a circuit judge. I just wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on a circuit judge because I didn't know. So somebody has said a circuit judge is just a glorified magistrate. Is that true?
Yes and no. Basically, they're looking to go up into being a district judge. Basically, is what it is. And to be fair, what you've got to understand is, and this is where it's got really perverse, they're not qualified.
No.
Magistrates are volunteers, right? They're volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
They're governed by who? Supposedly the crown officer within the court, the clerk.
Yeah.
who's now a legal advisor for the corporation.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
It doesn't get any more perverse than this. Then you've got the massive slap in the face to all of us that we've all missed. If the solicitor's a member of the bar, the barrister's a member of the bar, the judge is a member of the bar, they're all working from a foreign state without license or jurisdiction,
And no bonds, by the way.
and no bonds and no oaths
Yeah.
because they won't disclose them. So they haven't got any. Therefore, they're not a judge. They have no authority whatsoever and are there in criminal and treasonous behaviour. That's what we've got to start indicting them with.
So when a circuit judge says and is asked the question, "Are you under your oath today, as per the Promissory Act oath, the Promissory
Yeah.
Oath Act?" And she replies with, "Oh, well, well, what was the reply? It was something like, yes, I'm under my oath. Okay, what is that oath?" Well, no, she said, "I don't know what it's officially called." Um, and I was like, okay. And but did my thing a few years ago now. Right? Have you got a copy of that oath? No, I don't have a copy. Perhaps you could ask the court for a copy. And it's like this circuit judge doesn't seem to know what she's talking about.
They don't. They're not circuit judges. They're basically none of the judges are judges. Let's be right, fair, and honest. None of the judges are judges because they're not under the promissory oaths. That's a treasonous act. That's a treasonous behaviour. End of. There's no issue on that clause at all. They're treasonous. Okay, it's called treasonous behaviour. Look it up in law. Okay, and the fact is, what states in law is that all bonds and oaths of the Crown officers must be stored where? And available on the day of trial. They've got to be held within the court.
Right, okay.
HMCTS have now confirmed, and we've all seen it, the letters on YouTubes and TikToks and Christ knows what other platforms, that somebody's put in, where's all the bonds? Where's all the things? I want to claim against this judge. Right? So now they've put in these judicial reviews by other Bar Guild members that are never going to find them guilty in a month of Sundays.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all fraud. It's fraud on top of fraud on top of fraud. And so the judge is not a judge. They've no oaths, no bonds. That's nil pois. That literally is the definition of treason. Right? They're there to conduct business without your consent. And I hate the word consent, but it is by your written agreement. We've knowingly, willingly, and intentionally entered into the contract with the court. And the judge has to prove that they have the lawful capacity to be there. And if they can't prove it, they can't hear it. Simple as that. The case has got to be dismissed as to the rule of law. But we're not in law. You're in commerce. So now they're kicking the 12 presumptions of law. It's not a court of record. You are guilty because you are there, and that's how we're going to treat you. And where does this 12 presumptions of law come from? Roman law. That's why we all know we're under Roman law jurisdiction as citizens. We're no longer the people. We're no longer public. It's all a perversion. It's a game of words. That's all it is.
So Terry, what does somebody do? Let's say if somebody's listening right now and and they might be due in court in the next couple of weeks or month or so, and it's to do with council tax or water or mortgage or whatever, and they're listening to you right now and they're probably a bit scared, especially if it's their first time going in. What do they do? Because we know that these courts are administrative courts. We know, and when I was in court recently, she kept saying this court does not have the jurisdiction for that. She said that about 3 times. And so we know that they're not, even though she said it was a common law, we've since found out there are two common law courts. And I'm desperately trying to remember what Mick said this morning. But there's two common law courts. So even though she said yes, this is a common law court,
She never defines it.
no. So
This is what we start before we even go into trial, right? So if you're in court in a couple of weeks, right, you now put into the court and demand within 3 days that they supply the judge's oaths and bonds. They now have to clarify within 7 days that the clerk has the right to be there, that they are a constitutional monarchy clerk under the coronation, the Crown Agents Act. And they'll come back with some nonsense. So you trap them in claiming that they're something they're not, and then you can literally walk into court and issue them with an indictment. It's misconduct in public office by um, by misrepresentation, deception, and fraud. It is literally that simple, guys, because the court cannot produce any authority at all. None, not even the High Court.
now we know that they will probably ignore that. And from my
The problem they can't do is if you put it into a DSAR and then an affidavit, you get it stamped in their system and advise them that as soon as you enter the courtroom, you will be issuing the clerk of the court with an indictment, right? And get your indictments ready. This is a protection notice protocol.
when you say indictment, just in simple language, what does that mean?
If you look it up, it's on the internet. It's called misconduct in public office, right? And there's a section in there that's called public outrage. When you do something so egregious to the people, right, that you have basically misconducted yourself, right? And this is what they're doing. And it's called public outrage. Therefore, soon as you enter that court and issue them with a document and a signed evidence that you've attended court today, they've not produced their oath and bonds, they've not done this, they've not done that, all Crown agents are removed as to 1997. This is evidenced here, here, and here. There's nothing that they can argue. Nothing. These are all bar guild, monopolised judicial system. And they've taken you into a court of business without a contract or agreement, with no consent of the Imperial Crown, which is us. The Imperial Crown is not what people think it is. It's not that thing that sits on somebody's head. The Imperial Crown is the agreement of the governed to be governed and to accept the laws. Because what people have forgotten is and how it's done. Parliament suggests a law, we agree it. And if we, as the people, say, take the off, no, we're not doing that, in enough voice and send it, and this is what we've all forgotten, because they've now, even Parliament's now, as you know, incorporated. So therefore, what you do is you send a letter into Parliament to every, not your MP, because they don't work for us, they work for their party. As soon as you vote them in, they're not interested in you, right until 8 months, 9 months, a year before an election again. Then they want to come round kissing babies, shaking hands, and I've done a fabulous job. Yeah. When all they've done is screwed us over and taken as much money out of our system as possible. It's money laundering. Look at what Reform Doge is finding out. There's cases now coming online. Wayne's one of them. There's another one, all these, just got informed today, actually, that all these 20 mile an hour and, blocked up, just lost in court. It's bankrupt the council because the council are now having to pay all the fines back, all the costs and damages that they've created by creating these zones without lawful effect. Because people never agreed to it. They never agreed to it. And this is what it means by giving it royal assent. It means that we've given it assent to be done. This is why you've got the separation of powers. Parliament does not have the authority to do anything without our consent. Right? Simple as that.
And yet it continues to do so, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the reason it does that is because what has it got? It's got the Gestapo called a police force that we've now just demonstrated have no rights. They cannot claim, and they are in fraud, theft, and deception because they're stealing from the public purse. Because they're not public officers anymore. Don't care what they say, they're incorporated. The Chief Constable is incorporated. And they're trying to tell you that they're working for the king. Well, he works for us. So you're working for us then. Because you are supposed to be a public servant to uphold the rights of the people. Because that's what we pay you for. Instead, you are now being paid by bailiffs, by banks, to enforce knowingly, willingly, and intentionally fraudulent documentation in an act of high treason. It's called common law uttering and common law fraud. Because there's no such thing. Nothing out of our courts over the last 10 years at minimum, 12, 15 years, has got any authority at all. Because there's no Crown agents in there. There's no agreement. None. All they've got is because they've shifted us, the people, into citizens of Rome. Under Roman law. That's it. That's your deceit. That's the deception. That's it. And we are paying off the square miles debts and the Parliament's mismanagement of the public purse. It's as simple as that. That's it. That's what it gets to. And they've not told you, how can they charge 78% tax on electricity, gas and oil?
Is that how much it is?
That's what it is. That's what they're charging you. 78% on companies. This is why the companies are turning over 6 billion a quarter. This is why the government is earning 1.18 trillion last year in tax revenue and making more billionaires than Soft Mick, because everything is costing me and you, the people, in fraud and in deception.
So these energy rises are nothing to do with the cost of energy. It's to do with tax.
It's to do with the securities market, nothing more. They cannot pay off the securities that they borrowed because they've wrapped them up in fraud. It's that simple. This is all about the fraud that's created by the banks, the fraud and misuse of public money by parliaments and governments and the men behind the governments to keep us in what they can state is a state of emergency for taxation. That's it. And it's all lies. Absolute lies. None of it is true. This is why they bounced on the Japanese bond, and they're now having to pay it back through corporate rises that we don't have to pay. So by incorporating us by the misuse of the all caps legal fiction, misuse of the copyright version of the birth certificate, and misuse of everything that we hold dear, setting that aside like it never existed. That's your constitution, that's your common law, natural common law rights, the safeguards and protections that we understand in law. And they go, no, they don't exist. I was literally 3 weeks ago told that constitutional law does not exist in this court. And that's from a district judge.
And what was your response?
Fuck you, you cunt. You absolute fucking gremlin.
Did you actually say that?
I give you my word.
And what did he or she say?
We were on a Zoom call, so they ended the Zoom call.
Okay.
Okay. And it went a bit colourful and more than that, actually, before they ended it. And literally, the judge is now going to be getting an indictment very shortly. I'm working on it as we speak. This is twice now we've had a Zoom call with the same judge. He told the young lady that she was guilty because she was the landowner. And the fact that it was pointless, we weren't even there for that reason. It was there for her to become the counterclaimant, as she's put in a £3 million claim against the council for doing a unconstitutional act, and therefore as a maximum of law, and basically issuing a fine and forfeitures before any conviction as to the Bill of Rights. And they've totally ignored it. So we literally said, okay, you've got fucking 4 weeks to get it off. After that, if it doesn't come off, we will invoice you at £5,000 a month until 3 million, and then we'll take you to court. So we've done that. They've taken us to court. Well, they took her to court, and they owe us 3 million. So one, they can't take you to court until they've settled that bill. Two, it's obviously that we're in a council court. And two, the magistrates crapped themselves when we went in and got the information. So now we've got a district judge that doesn't know his bum from a hole in the ground. And so with him now stating on public record that she's guilty twice.
Is this to do with council tax, presumably?
No, this is to do with literally a small issue of a new build plot. It's over a wall, putting some gates up, and two fences, two panels that they say should be 4 foot, not 6 foot.
So this is a planning thing.
Well, when you say planning thing, it's basically it doesn't coincide with their policies. So they've now turned this into criminal. So it's a criminal offence now that you don't adhere to their policies.
Okay.
Okay.
Tell her to watch Clive Edwards. That might help a little bit as well.
Yeah. No. I mean, to be fair, I'm going to have a look at what Clive says. I'll have a look at
Yeah.
few bits.
He's my most popular one so far. He's flying through.
Well, it's the simplistic. I agree with him 100%. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Don't go off on your tangents. Don't go off on your what is it. Simplistically is better. It is you breach this, you breach that. So how can you do this? You can't. So fuck off.
Yeah.
We're not dealing with you anymore. We're not having a go. We're not whatever in. We know that you are corrupt from head to toe. And that's it. You write to, like the guy said, write to the Attorney General. Tell him straight, John Bull, remove me from all my things from this, that, and the other. I'm not corporate. I'm not this. I'm not the other. Remove it now. But what you'll get is all these sheep people. They'll go, oh no, we've got to do this, and we've got to keep the council. No, you don't. We've got to get out of, and this is what I keep saying to everybody. Keeps saying to, how do you get out of the system? How do you get out of the system? The easiest version is write to them, say, no, we're not putting up with your knob anymore. We are not the dead legal fiction. You have breached Crown copyright by stating that I'm the all caps birth certificate fiction, that because of the case in America and the information that I've got now, you know, when you're born, you get your live birth notification form.
Well,
you don't get it because they keep it. There's 3 copies of that, right? That goes off to a separate department. That's now in Canada, right? Why are they shipping our live birth notifications form to another foreign state, right? Because they don't want you to have them. You register the birth certificate, but before you do that, have a guess how you get your, and this has come from 4 midwives that I've checked with last week only, right? When do you get your NHS number?
When do you get it? I don't know, but I would assume. No, I don't know.
You'd be wrong, but here you go. This is from 4 midwives that have confirmed to me in the last 10 days. The baby only gets its NHS number once the placenta is registered.
Okay.
So why would you get a placenta registration and then it gives you the number for the name of the child? Yeah. Then you've got to register that within 6 weeks after it's died.
Yes.
Now the picture's becoming a lot clearer. This is how they're doing it. This is what they're doing. It's just so slimy and repugnant. Everybody's looking at this. Oh, it's got to be better than this. It's got to be bigger than it. No. To recap very simply, there is no constitutional monarchy courts in England, not one. There's no judge under oath. There's no, under our oath, that's the promissory oath, as to the 1688 and the Bill of Rights, none. No court is any more as any lawful authority whatsoever. It's all corporate. It's administrative. Right? There is no rule of law. The police officers are corporate. They're under Admiralty maritime law. Their cars now, do you know what their cars are classified as?
No.
Battleships. Do you know what you're classed as in your property?
No.
Prizes and bounty.
Prizes and bounty.
Yep. As to the rule of war at sea. There's a guy that's done 12 years in police force. He's had to walk out. Is that?